What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I am delighted to have Ryan Van Loan joining me once again. Ryan, it's a little dark where you're at.
Yeah, so I am coming from a haunted house. All I have is this soul candle and the light from David's lovely face reflecting back at me from the screen. But no, the
So
power at
sweet.
our house just tanked right before we jumped on here. So I'm coming by lamplight, but excited. I mean, we got all the atmosphere we need, man.
Yeah, there you go. I just hope it's not an omen. Power goes out right before you jump on. Yeah, I'm just glad that everything is charged up and you've got time to do this, and we're not just like going off your 5% battery life left on your phone.
Yeah, we are. Hopefully the connection's all right. We were going off of my mobile hotspot on my phone and my laptop and the battery that remains.
Well, yeah, I just kind of want to catch up a little bit. I mean, I know we've had a couple of chats before, so hopefully most people are pretty in tune to who you are and what you're about. But how have things been since TBRcon back in January? I mean, gosh, it feels like it's been forever since we last talked.
I know, man. I on the one hand, like it's a fond memory because I haven't done too many cons since then. But on the other, yeah, feels like a lifetime ago. No, it's been wild. I mean, so I have been working on getting book 3 ready, promoting book 2, getting a new series ready that we're going to be that maybe we could talk about later that we're taking out. At the same time, we moved, bought a new house, sold our old house, and I work in healthcare. So it's been super chill since January. No, it's been a wild roller coaster, and I just kind of like want to take a couple weeks and veg out, which hopefully will happen in September. But yeah, man, it's been wild, but really excited to get to talk to you again. It's been awesome actually watching, like, I think when we first connected for Mayday Con and you were like, had your book review site going and it was there, but man, it has taken off. You've been like taking the world by storm. That's cool.
I mean, I don't toot my horn. So, but yeah, no, I see. I wasn't even doing video chats. Like I was just doing like little podcasts and just going, for the 10 people who want to listen, here you go. And then MaydayCon, everybody's like, you need to do more of these. So I was like, okay, what can I do? Well, let's like triple it and do a full week long convention.
I couldn't believe like you were like 12 hours a day just in front of the camera, like talking and like not looking tired, but like I could tell that like you were like really pumping it out. I was like, oh my God. And your wife too, to let you to put up with that. That's
Oh, I
that's
know.
something
Yeah,
else.
luckily she was working most of that. So, and my daughter was a trooper. She napped through every one of them. And then no, I was really worried though because we did the big panel with Erickson and Brett and Winter. And literally 5 seconds before that started, I had just put my daughter down and like ran back in here to start the panel. And I'm sitting there watching on the monitor. I'm like, all right, you got to stay asleep for like 1 hour, just 1 hour, please. And so like, I was like, just like stress sweating through the whole thing.
I watched that, but I'm gonna have to go back and watch it again now and be like zoom in on you and like watch like the bead of sweat.
Yeah, like watch my eyes like darting back into the monitor. Yeah, because I'm like I can't mess this up in front of like Steven Erickson. And I mean I talked to Peter and Evan, and of course I didn't want to mess up in front of Rebecca either. But yeah, I was just like, oh gosh, boys, let this panel go well. And so I'm like, probably I don't know, 10 or 15% of it I'm like speaking over my sentences because like I just can't get the words out fast enough because I'm also like stressed out. But yeah, no, it's been a ride. I mean, I did the podcast, and I had a couple of people reviewing on the blog, and so we were staying pretty small. And I was just like, what is like the next step? Like what do I do? Do I start doing video reviews? I never want to do video reviews. I honestly I hate like my cell phone camera, and like I don't think I can just like talk to myself. It's kind of weird. I know you're talking to an audience, but like I can't do it. I can do talking to somebody else, but I can't do this whole thing. So I was like, all right, that's next. I'll just keep doing the chats. And then I was like, well, what if I just do like an open call for more review, more reviewers? Like who who out there is like looking for a place besides Goodreads and Amazon to review? And then all of a sudden, like 15 people signed up. And I was like, holy crap. Okay, sure. And so now we're at 27 reviewers on the blog now. So it's gotten pretty massive.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we're about to or I've got one of the guys, Adrian Gibson's about to start like a new podcast for the blog. It's like it's associated with the blog, but it's not like Fanfi Addict Presents. It's called SFF Addicts, so it's similar. But we're gonna be doing like full like blog chats. We'll be doing interviews. Like we've got an interview coming up in September with Anthony Ryan, Sebastian De Castel, and Nicholas Eames. And we may be adding one more person on there, so that's gonna be a pretty big one. And then we just got like a few more kind of like going in the works. So that's gonna be something new. And then yeah, just kind of keep doing what we're doing. So it's been a whirlwind, but it hasn't been, finishing a book and moving houses, because moving is so exhausting.
Oh my God.
I never want to do it again.
We're not moving for ever if I can wrangle it. But yeah, well, and our house was like our first house. We were in it for like 8 years. So I had all these little projects that I never did. And so then it was like literally like I had to do 8 years worth of like maintenance in like a month so that we could show it. Oh my God, it was awful. It was like literally like awful. And then we had some life stuff going on. So it's just like there was just a lot of stress. But on the other side now, on the other side of the book launch, on the other side of moving, now I'm kind of like, okay, it was all worth it. But yeah, man, in the moment. But I have to say, I knew you were huge when I think it was a month ago, I tweeted out something, which is true, but I tweeted out something about how, like reviewers and podcast folks are like the lifeblood of like the genre really, and getting the word out, because like it's a thankless job. You put a ton of time into it. Even if you have a financial revenue stream, it's never, you're never breaking even on the amount of time that you're putting into it. So it's just a labor of love. But I'd said that, and then you retweeted it. And then like all these people were retweeting it that I didn't know. So I was like checking them out. And like each one was like Fanfi Addict reviewer. And I was like, oh my God, like David got huge. Like I knew it, I was seeing it, but like, then like I saw it in front of me, and like, yeah, like I believe it, like 20 some people. It was just crazy. So congrats. It's awesome to see that happen.
Yeah. And like I said, it's been pretty organic. Outside of like the open call, I've just had like some people just kind of, hit me up and go, hey, I'm interested in doing this. But it's so weird, because I feel like some people like come and talk to me like I'm supposed to be like somebody famous. And so they're like, hey, I just want to like check in. And I'm like, please talk to me like a normal person. Like I'm not just like some guy, just because I don't ever want to feel like I've like made it big, because I don't want to end up getting like an ego and all this other stuff and be like, oh no, I'm going to turn people away. Like I literally have said yes to every single person. That's probably why we have 27 people on the blog, but I'm like, I'm kind of just using it as a platform just to help people out. Cause I mean, we've got some people that have had blogs for years that never got the traction they wanted. So, we still don't get like a massive amount. I mean, we get a good, daily count, but it's not something that I'm going to sit there and scream from rooftops about. But it's nice, because now we've built our own like kind of community inside of the community. Mm-hmm. And so we have constant direct messages going on between everybody about all kinds of things. And it's just kind of like a place where like all of my friends from high school moved out of the city. And so like I'm friends with all of my wife's friends' husbands. So, and only like a couple of them read, and we like just text every now and then, because we don't see each other all the time. So like this blog on top of the community outside of it is just like a really nice place to talk about books, to talk about movies and video games and all kinds of stuff that I don't really have, and I haven't had in years. And it's awesome, and I hope it continues to grow. I just hope it doesn't overgrow.
Well, I mean, I think you have the right attitude, and that's what everything you said, I was like smiling, because that's what I love about the genre. Like to me, that's when the genre, science fiction and fantasy, that's when we're doing it right. It's like, a group of like-minded folks getting to hang out together, There's, there's no ego, there's no right or wrong. There's just like, hey, we love genre and let's talk about what we love about it. That's what I mean, I think that's why everybody gets on Twitter. That's why everybody gets into this. Now we all know that there's like the discourse and there's the trolls. And so, I think a lot of people are checking out, and it's unfortunate.
Mm.
But like that kind of safe space where you can just like hang out with like-minded folks and like talk stuff, and like your attitude is what I love, because it's funny, like I am by no means a big named author, but I bump into a lot of different folks in the genre, whether it's the industry side or whether it's on like the blogger side or the YouTube side or the con side. And it's funny to me. It's only happened a few times, but it's funny to me. I will occasionally bump into somebody who's like, well, I only take on people that are a big deal, or like, well, we have some big names coming here, and like that sort of a thing. And I'm always just like, okay, like, and I'm like, I'll remember you. I hope one day I'm big enough that you ask me and I will remember this encounter. Hopefully I won't be that petty, but that's what I love about you. And I love about like a lot of folks, like, Kate Elliott is a good example. She reached out to me before I ever had a book deal. And nobody would know this, but she reached out to me, sent me an email and said, hey, I saw this post that you posted on Twitter. If I can ever help out, just let me know. And ever since then, she's kept in touch. She'll occasionally tweet back to me. She'll reach out. She'll retweet my stuff. Hopefully I get to meet her in person one day and thank her. But it's people like that, like Elizabeth Bear, like you, that are, I think, why folks are drawn to the genre. So yeah, man, I think it's awesome. You deserve it all. And, if you get too big, it's a good problem to have, I think.
Well, I will gladly take being in the same sentence as Kate Elliott and Elizabeth Barrett. That makes my heart feel good. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I posted the other day about just kind of taking a back step from Twitter, which I mean, I've seen some big names. Tade Thompson just is gone from Twitter now, and I freaking hate that. I love following him. And I love his books, and I wanted to talk about his new one, when it comes, because it comes out in October, and I was just about to start it, and I'm like, no, but there's other ways of getting in touch. But yeah, I came to realize that I would, if I wasn't working, if my daughter was done for a nap and I wasn't trying to focus on something else, I literally would just sit there and just scroll mindlessly, and you would look up and 30 minutes have passed, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? And so I was like, I'm gonna keep DMs open. I'll look at notifications, but I'm like, I don't want to have to sit there and like seriously scroll through everything, like find the people that I want to find to make sure that I'm keeping up with what they're doing. It's so tedious and so hard. And I'm like, there's other things I could be doing, like reading. Like today, I've been reading the book upcoming, Hand of the Sun King. And I like powered through like half of it today. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I've only been on Twitter like once. This is amazing. I should keep doing this. And so it's been a relief. But yeah, I kind of do hate that I miss out on some of the great stuff that's happening on Twitter, but I'm glad I'm missing out on the crap stuff that happens, if that makes sense.
No, for sure, man, for sure.
So are we gonna get another season of Bake? I'm so ready for a new season of Bake Off. Like, we've already watched the last season like 2 or 3 times, and I love everybody, but I need new.
I mean, before the Delta variant, I feel like things were going really well in Britain, and they did it when we didn't have a vaccine. So I feel like they have to come through for us now. I really like the last one. I mean, I like all of them. That one was a little different, but I actually like it. They still find, and I mean, I've never been to Great Britain. I've been to Europe, so I need to get over there. I don't know if they're all like those people, but like whatever their screening process is, like they find like the nicest people in the world. And like
you'll never find that here.
no, never. I know. I like Top Chef, but I'm like, Top Chef is like rare that you see somebody nice, and then like, like I think like the guy who won like was then outed later as like being like this like awful like boss and harasser. So it's just like, oh god. But
you can really portray yourself however you want to on television.
Totally. So like that has always been my outlet, man. Like we've talked about this before. So yeah, I think we have to get another season. Um, I'm waiting for the day when like Paul is like done and like some of the other people are done, and I'm like, they haven't stepped wrong so far, but
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, I would love to see like some of the contestants from like the first couple of series like come back and be a host. Like if Paul Hollywood is ever done, like I would love to see like Liam come back and be the host, which I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure he hosts another show, if I'm not mistaken, or did host at one point. Um, but yeah, no, that show never gets old. Like I can just sit there and just watch all the seasons like over and over again. Now my wife and I did watch oh shoot. I'm I'm totally blanking. It was the Zumbos, Just Desserts. Have you ever watched that? I think there's like only one season on Netflix.
I think we watched one of those because when you said just desserts, it triggered a memory.
Yeah, but yeah, but like even on there, like everybody was so cutthroat except for like one guy, and he like almost wins the whole thing. And I'm like, gosh, I just nothing is Great British Bake Off. And so I just that's what I always compare it
There's
to.
Netflix has a show. It's one of the women from the Bake Off. Oh, I can't remember her name. I want to
It's
say
like I know what you're talking about. Is it
I want to say Nadia, but I don't think that's right.
yeah, Nadia. Yeah, Nadia Hussein.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And she has like it's really cute. It's like, she shows you like two or three different recipes and like talks you through it. And like it's all the Britishisms that like make no sense to Americans that like you only know if you watch the Bake Off. So it's
Right.
great. Like so she's had success,
Mhm. I think she's
uh
got two shows on Netflix, if I'm not
oh, does
mistaken. I think
she?
she's got Nadia Bakes, and I forgot what the other one is. My wife and I have already like watched those.
Nice.
And that's when we made the beef Wellington because she had made it, and my wife's like, "Oh my gosh, I totally want to make that." So I was like, "Here we go."
I need to make that. I've eaten beef Wellington. I haven't made it yet. I'll make her version over Gordon's because she's just nicer.
Yeah.
Um, and like Ruby, like I'd love to see Ruby come back
Mhm.
from like the original. I think she was what, season 2, maybe season
Mhm.
3.
Something like that.
Um, I always like the bakers who are like convinced that they suck and are terrible, and then like everybody's like, "This is the best thing I've ever eaten. Like this is amazing," and like it always cracks me up. Like just like I like people that don't like I don't like people not to know how good they are, but I do like people who are so humble that they're like, "I can't be this good. Like I've messed up." Like the one guy, I'm blanking on his name, who crushed it that one season. It was like 2 or 3 seasons ago. Um, he's like
And
a
he ended up
shorter
winning it, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's like a shorter guy. He
Starts with an
won.
R. I can't remember. I can't remember
I
his
know.
name off the
There's
top of
so
my head.
many of them. They kind of all like their faces are in my head, but their
I'm gonna
names
I'm
are
gonna
like
Google
really
it. I'm
close.
gonna Google
Yeah,
it.
no, we need to. That guy was like amazing. Like the stuff he was putting out, like the second episode, and he was convinced the whole time that he was terrible. And I was like, dude, like you're incredible, man.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna die if I don't find it. Da, da, da,
Was
da,
it?
da.
It wasn't like no, it wasn't Raul. What was it? It was something R. I think it was an R. They all
Just
run
give me the name.
together
No, it
in
is
my head.
Raul Mandel or
Oh, thank
Mandal.
God. I
Yep.
don't feel bad. I was gonna feel really bad and be like, I can't believe I messed his name up. No, good.
But no, he
Yeah.
crushed it like every week, and he was like, "Oh, this is gonna be awful." I'm like, "Come on, man!" But those are like, but like, I'm like you. Those are the ones. They're like my favorite. Is they
Mhm.
think they're horrible, and they think they suck, and they're just crushing everything, and everybody's just like, how did you do all these chocolate sculptures when it's like 1,000 degrees outside?"
That's the other thing. It's so cruel that they're like, hey, middle of summer in a tent, like now do something with chocolate. Like,
Yeah.
come on now. And
No,
you're gonna have to
no
wait
AC
like half an
units.
hour. Yeah, totally. No AC units. You're
This
gonna have to wait
tiny
half an
little
hour for the
fridge.
judges to show up. And everybody's sweating and like somehow your chocolate's just gonna have to stick it out. It's
Yeah,
craziness.
see, like now we're watching Nailed It. I don't know if you've ever watched that one. That was freaking hilarious. So and when they say amateur bakers, I mean these are people that like burn cakes like at home. It's like not, they haven't like been on anything and they're never gonna be, but it's so much fun. But like even they get blast chillers. And I'm like, why can't the people on Bake Off get a blast chiller for once? Like help them with their chocolate creations. It's nuts.
Oh man. Well, it being Europe, they probably don't even have that. Like,
Probably
because
not.
the
They
the
have it in
the, the
Australia. They have it in the US, but for some reason they can't get one in the UK. They can't get the sockets right, I guess. I don't know. So let's talk a little bit about books. That's one of the main reasons we're here. But first, I want you to talk a little bit about your first book, The Sin and the Steel, that came out last year. Piratical fantasy. I know Jason freaking loved it. He's talked nonstop about it. So tell everybody a little bit about what The Sin and Steel is about, and then we can kind of talk about how it leads into book 2, The Justice and Revenge.
Yeah, totally. Um, so The Sin and the Steel's the first in the Fall of the God series. It follows the story of Sambukinia Bakalhura. She is an autodidact street rat. She's kind of part Sherlock Holmes, part young Indiana Jones, all herself. She's kind of too smart for her own good. She has this razor sharp blade hidden up her sleeve, but she has an even sharper tongue. And so The Sin and the Steel introduces us to her and her swordsman partner in crime solving, Eld. They're kind of the first private investigators in a world controlled by trading companies and empires and these gods that are caught in an endless war. And so, she grew up on the streets and she knows how awful it is for basically everyone who wasn't born with a golden spoon. And so she's determined to upend their corrupt society. She's just been looking for a lever big enough to get her the power needed to do that. And so The Sin and the Steel is her finding that lever. Basically, she gets blackmailed by the largest trading company, most powerful trading company in the world. But she flips the tables on them a little bit. And so her and Eld take on this mission that has them facing off against pirate queens and mages and the undead and uncharted seas to basically solve this mystery that empires have failed to uncover. And then unfortunately for Buck, the gods get involved. And unfortunately for the gods, Buck has a plan for them. And so it's pirates, it's rip roaring adventure, it's kind of swashbuckling fantasy. And so that was The Sin and the Steel. I call it adventure fantasy with heart. The adventure is most of what I just talked about. I think the heart is kind of this found family between Buck and Eld, who kind of have their backs together facing off against the world. And when we meet Buck, she's kind of convinced she doesn't need anyone, but it's this found family journey between her and Eld that I think is really intriguing. So that's The Sin and the Steel. And then the Justice and Revenge, the sequel, kind of takes a turn from pirates to politics. It has the dynamic duo kind of dealing with the fallout from the events of the first book. It's set against the backdrop of Cervenza. It's this island gearwork city. I have a bunch of amazing set pieces. Think kind of Venice. It's been compared to Lies of Loch Lomond in Scott Lynch's world. I think because of the Mediterranean elements, there's definitely some differences there. But from a setting perspective, I think Mediterranean, Caribbean pirate fantasy, yeah, totally. But this one has a lot more like boardroom intrigue, masquerade balls. There's gondola chases, street games, shape-shifting mages. But Buck and Eld find themselves facing this evil mastermind who might be the only one who can rival Buck's genius. And it's kind of the deadliest mystery of their career. So that's the sequel. The Justice and Revenge just came out this summer. Last summer was The Sin and the Steel. Both definitely adventure fantasy with heart. Like I said, kind of just choose your own. If you like pirates, you're in. If you like politics, you're in. I don't know anybody who doesn't like gondola chases. So
I mean, yeah. I mean, come on, shape shifting mages. I mean, come on now.
yeah, exactly.
So going from book 1 to book 2, were you ever worried that you were going to hit that sophomore slump that a lot of people talk about? With book 2s, especially a first series.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's kind of in books and music and a lot of different artistic things. There's always that, the second book was rushed and oh, they weren't ready and what have you. And so I was really worried about that. So I finished book 2 and I finished the edits on book 2 before book 1 came out. So that was nice in that I didn't have the pressure of an audience and audience expectations. But I knew I knew that this book would have an audience and there would be expectations. So, I probably overcorrected in hindsight. I think the one comment that has been kind of common throughout both reviews of both books has been that I don't explain everything for the reader. You have to be paying attention. I think labyrinthian plot was one comment by a reviewer, which I really liked because I grew up on epic fantasy, the kind of take no prisoners approach. So I threw a lot into the first draft of this one though, because I really didn't want to have that problem. And I remember when I sat down with my agent, Don Juan Song, who was an editor at Orbit with James S.A. Corey and Brent Weeks and Shannon McGuire writing as Mira Grant, and kind of laid it all out for them. And I remember Don Juan's eyes, and they were like, well, I think we might need to prune a little bit here. Like maybe like we'll cut back this, and like maybe we focus on that. And so I did that. And then I got to my editor at Tor, Melissa Singer, who's awesome. And she was like, her edit letter back to me was like, so you got a lot going on here. Like might be a little too many twists, a little too much this, a little too much that. So normally I am an underwriter. Most of my edits are like, hey, can you explain this a little bit more, unpack that a little bit more, which I love because I hate cutting and I love to write prose, but this one was definitely a different beast. So, I went in there, I trimmed some things, I kind of straightened out a couple of plots that were a little too twisty, but there's still a lot of twists in here. There's still a lot of mystery and intrigue. It's private investigators trying to basically uncover who's trying to kill them and kill them before they get killed themselves is what it turns into. And so that's always, I think, kind of a fun way to go through a book. But yeah, man, this was a lot. I don't think that I have to worry about the sophomore slump. The initial reviews, anyway, from bloggers and some of the trades have been really positive, so I've been thankful for that. But it definitely was a lot more work than I initially anticipated, and probably a little too top heavy in that first round.
Yeah, there's it's always that balance. Like, okay, I have to cut a lot, or I have heard of a few people that have had to add words after sending it in the first time, and I can't imagine going, oh gosh, I finished this book, it's so great, and then going, I need you to add about 20 or 30,000 words. You're like, oh gosh, no, what do I do?
Well, that's how it was for the Sin and the Steel. I think the version I turned into Tor was like 115,000 words, and I think the version that's in print is about 125. So they were like, hey, can you, but like I said, I love that. Like I love writing prose. So I mean, you want me to add another chapter? Happy to do so. Now, when you are like, hey, can we trim like 10,000 out of this? That's where I like start to break out into a cold sweat. But luckily my editor is really good at that, even with just like line work of like, you don't need this and here and you don't need that there. And over the course of like 600 pages, suddenly we've trimmed a lot. So
Yeah.
So luckily I have those folks in my corner. But yeah, I definitely had to trim on this one.
So as far as going from book one to book two, have you expanded a lot in the world? Do you stay kind of in that Caribbean area? Do you add any more points of view into your series?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, book one was like we started in Cervenza, but by chapter like 2 or 3, we're headed out to the Shattered Coast and kind of the here be dragons territory of the world. So you get a lot of sense of the character and kind of the plot. You don't necessarily get that whole world view. Book two, we're squarely in Cervenza. It's the island capital of a pretty vast empire. And so it's a melting pot, as you might imagine. And so we start to get a larger sense of the world. It's called the Fall of the Gods series for a reason. And so we learn a lot more of the gods. We get a lot more POV from some of the mages on both sides, because there's rival factions there. The evil mastermind I mentioned, we start to get some interesting peeks into what they're doing versus what Buck and Eld are doing. And so I think that's a really fun look into things. And then the thing that surprised me in this book, I'm very much an outliner, and I very much know exactly how the book is going to go before I ever write the first line of prose. But my characters are very organic, so that's where I can be surprised when I'm creating. And there was a couple of side characters, secondary characters who interact with Buck or Eld or the world in general, who really caught me by surprise because they had more to say than I realized. And so, there's a couple of character arcs in this book that I wasn't anticipating, but I think were like really interesting and intriguing, and watching these other folks in the background kind of move closer to the foreground. So yeah, I mean, if the Sin and the Seal was pretty tight. It was mostly Buck, a couple of Eld scenes, and that was pretty much it. This one it's Buck, it's Eld, it's this evil mastermind, it's mages from the other side. So readers who, and I think in the reviews and the fan mail that I got, there was a lot of questions about like, oh wow, like this sounds really interesting, or we're gonna get to see more of the world. Well, in book 2 you definitely get to see a lot more of the world. So you start to kind of peel back the layers and understand the machinations that are going on behind the scenes in book 1.
I gotcha. Yeah, I feel like that's like one of the main things, especially in fantasy, that readers are always craving for is more world, because your book 1 is generally there's some rarities out there, but it's generally it's introduction, and everybody's like, okay, you got to expand this, you got to move this way and that way and slant ways. Because I mean, I even talked to Anthony Ryan about that, about the pariah. I was like, all right, we're gonna see more of the world, right? He's like, oh yeah, you see that map edge? Yeah, it goes beyond that. And I go, oh, it really does it. So yeah, I mean, it's and part of my reasoning is just because I grew up on video games, so I'm always like trying to get to the edge of the map, and then I literally just like make a diagonal like down it. Because I'm playing, thanks to Jenny Dewis, I'm playing Diablo 3 right now. So literally, I'm just like making sure I clear out all like the black spaces on the maps, like I don't miss anything. So I'm just like killing the same monsters over and over again to make sure there's like not an extra bit of experience up in this corner.
Oh, that's an awesome game. No,
Oh, it really is.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm the same way. Like I kind of I took that approach with my series, and that book 1 takes you to the far edge of the map, and now like book 2 brings you to the center, and book 3 is going to take you across the rest of the map. So like you're going to get to see everything. But yeah, I know I'm the same way. I'm kind of always like, but what's around that corner? But what's further over there? Like I used to play a lot of Elder Scrolls, and if they ever come out with a new one, I will again. But I was the same way. I'd be like, okay, so like what's going on in these far-flung corners? Like there's a mountain that I can barely climb. Like I bet there's something over here. I gotta find out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's like, kind of like in like Fallout, you start out and you're able to open most things, but then there's like that one lock that you can't pick for like 30 levels. You're like, okay, I got to jot this down. I got to come back and see what's in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So how's the process going for book 3? I mean, I know book 2 just came out, so it's like still fresh, but did you kind of do the same thing? Did you have a majority of book 3 finished before book 2 came out?
Yeah, yeah. And publishing's funny, right? So like, we're talking about book 2 just came out, but like I wrote book 3 last summer. So
Golly.
yeah, so I wrote book 3 last summer. I had that one was a lot of fun, and that's the one like it's funny. Every time I go to promo like the book, like the next book that I just finished or that like I'm going through edits on, I'm so excited about, because that's the thing that's fresh in my mind, but I can't really talk about it. And readers don't want to hear about that because they have to wait a year. But
Right.
no, so it's done. Where I'm at right now, I actually just got line edits back from my editor. So we did a pretty light developmental edit where she was like, hey, like this chapter needs this, or like this arc, like can you tweak it a little bit, or like here's some questions that I had. And so we finished that back in, I don't know, March or April of this year, I think. And then like literally like the day of the Justice and Revenge release, my celebration from my editor was like, here's a line edit for this book. So it's like
Yay.
yeah. I'm not a fan of line work. It's actually really important, makes it a lot better, but like, oh, it's painful to have somebody go through, and not every editor does this, but my editor does, because there's a copy editor that's going to come later and do the same thing. But she'll go through and basically every line be like, did you mean to use this word? Why'd you use this word instead of that word? What about this? Like, did you think about this? Like, hey, this person's coat was a different
Oh,
color, like in the scene before. And it all makes it better for the reader. But
right.
when you're the one that has to go through line by line for like
And
hundreds of
clean it up.
pages,
Oh,
oof,
oh.
it's my least favorite part, but it's also probably the most important. So yeah, so I mean, book three got me through the summer of the pandemic, honestly, because I knew I needed to turn it in, I think by September 1st, and I did it by the second week in August. But it was it was the thing that kind of helped me maintain my sanity while I was going through that. And then
Mm.
and also, book one came out my debut, and so that was kind of an off kilter feeling. So that's basically done. What'll happen is next week I'll get that back to my editor, and then in a couple more months I'll get the copy editor. Will come through. We'll do the same process, and hopefully early this fall I'll start to see some draft cover art, and then it's off to the races. And so I'll probably last touch the book for like what they call final pass pages, which is basically like it's like set in the type it's going to look like in the book. You've already looked at that once, and now it's like the final time. I'll probably touch that again in like February,
Mm.
and then it'll be done. And this time next year the final book will be out. Hopefully folks will like it. But I mean, the good news is you don't have to worry that like I'm going to decide that it needs to be changed, or that I need to add something, or wait, maybe it's actually 4 books instead of 3 books. Like, it's done. So everyone's going to find out how Buck's story ends, and how the Fall of the God series plays out, and I'm really excited for that.
I gotcha. So I know we talked a little bit on the onset before we started recording. Can you talk at all about what you got coming up next after this series?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm happiest and I'm a better person whenever I'm writing. So I'm always writing. So knock on wood, that doesn't change. It hasn't changed for about the last 10 or 12 years. So I think we're in safe territory. So while all this was going on, I had this other series kind of percolating in the back of my mind. I had about, I don't know, 70,000 words of it written.
Wow.
And so yeah, so but this one's going to be bigger. This one's going to be, not, it's going to have adventure, but this is like true epic fantasy. For a while I was calling it my Sanderson killer, not because I thought I was better than Sanderson, but just like it was going to be like a doorstopper in the vein of what he writes. And it's going to be long. I don't know if it's going to be that long, because now that I've gone through the publishing process, I don't even know how he does it. Like, my books are like 125 to 150,000 words, and his books are like 400 to 500,000. And the amount of work that I have to do for this, oh, I can't even imagine. But anyway, we are in the process of pitching the next series, and my agent's really excited about it. It's sort of like X-Men Avengers meets the Matrix. It's this fantasy world trying to rebuild from a far future post-apocalyptic wasteland. And basically their best hope rests on these mages called runics, who use blood-based rune magic. And so, the setting is there's like radiation strewn cities that are ruled by sentient AI fae, if you will. There's clans of uplifted gorillas called the Berserker Gang. There's gods with strange magic vying for the hearts of the people and the nations. And so, there's a lot of tension there. And going on with all of this, there's these runics, and the runics start going insane and leveling cities. And so there's this group called Justicars that are tasked with stopping them and finding out what's behind their madness before they tear the world apart for a second time. And so, that's the series. That's kind of the pitch. And
Wow.
I'm really excited to get to write that one. So hopefully we sell that this summer and get an announcement out. I don't know, publishing slow. Hopefully we get an announcement out relatively shortly. And if I have my way, that's what folks will be reading next when they finish the
I
Fall
love
of the
how you
Gods.
say publishing is slow, and yet like all of us readers are like, oh my gosh, can they slow down?
Well, it's like we live in this golden age, and it truly is a golden age because the internet has lowered barriers so much. And I think, publishing has grown a lot, in that there's amazing fiction out there, and each publisher is churning out amazing stuff. So no, I totally get it. I mean, like I'm getting hit up for blurb requests or people like, have you read this? Or like, like I'm like kind
Oh
of
my
on the
gosh,
promo scene
always.
right now. So everybody's like, oh, did you read this book? Did you read that book? And I'm like, no, like,
No.
no, like I've been like working on this stuff and like, I'm writing like, 1 to 2 books a year, but like publishing is 1 book a year. And so,
Hmm.
like we said, like, book 1 came out, I finished book 3. So I'm always further ahead, and like the books that I'm reading now are coming out in like 2022, 2023. And so it's difficult to talk about. Like I read Christopher Buehlman's The Black Tongue Thief
Oh,
like 2 years ago.
gosh, it was
So
so good.
yeah,
Oh,
like that
yeah, I
was a
read it
lot of
last
fun.
October. God, so good.
Yeah, so like I'm like excited about that. I want to talk about it. I'm like, well, nobody even knows that this book is happening yet
I
for like another
know, I know.
year. So
Yeah, I mean, you probably get, like one of the arcs, like it was just like a black cover, like there was nothing
that's
to
that's
it.
that's exactly what it was. And yeah, and I read that when I was like, oh yeah, people are gonna love this book. And then like, like I've read dozens of books since then, and then now people are talking about it. So it is a little weird to be on the other side
Yeah.
um from fandom. But no, I totally get it. I think as a reader, it's the best time. Like it's never been better.
Hmm.
I was in high school when Jordan was still alive and publishing, and that was fun. But the number and breadth and scope of fantasy today is just, you can't beat
It's
it.
insane. Yeah, especially with self-publishing and indie publishing. And I mean, because there's like always like a new like small press coming out that's like pushing out things. I mean, you've got Athon Books now that's like they're just churning books out like crazy, and audio and lit RPG and all kinds of stuff. And then you've got all the traditional with Tor and Orbit, and it's Penguin Random House. I mean, it's nuts. And so yeah, so I'm in the same boat. You're just like, have you read this? I'm like, no. If it's come out in the last 5 years, there's a potential that I have read it. If it came out before that, probably not.
No, totally. I mean, on the flip side, it's like it's never been a worse time in some ways to be an author, because it's like the competition, there's so much out there. And so like, the fan base of fantasy is, and I think we talked about this earlier, like is wonderful. And I think it's wonderful because it's small and close knit, but at the same time it's small and close knit. So like everybody reads a book a month or more in the genre. Like I totally get it. But at the same time, like Tor's putting out a book every week. Orbit's putting out a book like every week or every other week. The others are doing the same. Like it's just building on it on itself. And so it's like, yeah, like, I get it. As a reader, I'm still like I'm going back now because I'll hear the buzz and I'll be like, oh yeah, I didn't get a chance to read that book, or like, oh, I think I have that arc laying around, and then like I'll go find them and like read that and be like, oh, that's what everybody's talking about. Like
Right.
I think it was last month or the month before, I was like, I got to read CL Polk's first book in her first Tor trilogy, and now I'm gonna blank on the name of the book because I'm thinking of the Midnight Bargain, but that's the last one that came out in a different series.
That's what Google's for. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I want to. It's not Storm
Why
Song.
do we keep blanking? Witchmark?
Yes, Witchmark. And so I just read that, and I've known CL for a little while, and I've known of the series for longer, and I finally just read that, and it was an awesome book. And I was like, should have read this sooner, but yeah, there's just not enough time in the day, man.
There's really not. Yeah, I've kind of decided, now that I'm kind of doing this social media, kind of like, step back, that I'm gonna start going through like all these series that I've just been like sitting on for forever, or not even sitting on for forever, but just like found out about and just haven't gotten to. So like, I've got to do like all of Peter B. Brett and the rest of Abercrombie, and all of Brett Weeks. Just like so behind because since I started doing the blog stuff, it's all been debuts and
Mhm.
hopefully finishing the series out. And it all kind of started with Orbit. It's just kind of trickled into Tor, and it's trickled into Penguin Random House and so forth. So yeah, I mean, like most of the stuff that I've read is probably Orbit in the last 3 or 4 years. And so like I feel really good about like what I've read from one publisher.
Seriously.
But yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, that's kind of what I decided to do, is just kind of like step back. Okay, let's get back to reading. And gosh, like it was so nice. Well, my wife and I were allowed to take a day to ourselves to go down to the lake, and like her parents watched our daughter. So yes, like I was just sitting by the pool just reading all day. I was like, oh my gosh, if I could do this every day, just imagine the cleaning off of the bookshelves. It's never gonna happen. So have you read anything good recently that isn't coming out in a year or two?
Oh, it's a good question. Let's see. Well, Marina Lostetter had a book that came out in March.
Helm of Midnight.
Yep, called The Helm of Midnight. That was really good. That is sort of like Miss Bourne meets like Hannibal Lecter, like the TV series. And by that I mean it has like this Miss Bourne atmosphere and magic like quality to it that I think like if you like that book, you'd really like this one. But it's basically this team of sisters who are trying to solve a serial killer who was put to death like 20 years before, and now they've resurfaced, and so they're trying to solve like the mystery of who this killer is and stop him from killing more people. And the magic system is like people when they die, like whatever quality they have, they can imbue into a mask, and so they have these death masks, and when you wear a death mask, you get like some of that person's thoughts and feelings come into you, but also whatever power they had. And so that's like, so it's good and bad, right? Like if somebody is really talented in an area, that's awesome, but what if they were like insane or like an evil person? Like that personality is now like warring in your mind. And so it was a really cool magic system, really cool atmosphere. So that was a good one. I actually just went back, speaking of older books, I went back and I'm almost done with Brian Staveley's first book in his initial trilogy. And that's been a lot of fun to read. So, I can't spoil the ending, so I won't, but that has been a really cool book to see, epic fantasy done well, kind of getting to see from multiple POVs how like they all converge on one another in this world that's coming together. So that's really good. And I'm just now diving into Sanderson's latest in his Stormlight Archive series. So I did a reread like over like Christmas, like in the winter there, and like got caught up. And I was like going to dive right into that. And then all the craziness that I mentioned before kind of happened. So I didn't get to it. So I'm just now diving into that. So that's some of the stuff I've been reading recently. But
I gotcha.
How about you? What's the last thing you read?
Let's see. What is the last thing I read? I finished Chuck Wendig's The Book of Accidents. That's really good. It's like epic horror. Which like to talk more about it like really spoils it because it's like one thing but it turns into something else, but it's really really good. If you read Wanderers, it's kind of epic in scope like that one is, but it's a little closer. It's like not a trip across America kind of thing. But that one's good. What have I read recently? Oh my gosh, so many things. Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. I mean, I read that one like a month ago, but it's really good. It's a freaking tome. Let me grab it real quick. Which I know like a lot of people have seen this cover, but I freaking love it. But yeah, so Dragon Mage by M.L.
Awesome.
Spencer. It's so good. It's like 800 something pages. But it's like worth every penny. And the audio just came out. So if you grab the ebook, which I think it's like 99 cents, you can get the audio for like $8. So it's like 28 hours for $8. I'm like, spend it. And what else? I could have like just like go look on the blog to see. But yeah, I haven't read a whole lot of new stuff recently. I read or listened to Grievar's Blood by Alexander Darwin. It's his second book in his Combat Code series. He was a finalist for the Spiffbo 6 this past year, and he's actually going to be in the new specific, the self-published science fiction competition that Hugh Howey's doing coming up. So I'm excited to see how he does in that, because that was kind of, I think what hurt him a little bit is some of the bloggers thought his book was more science fiction. So I think that hurt him a little bit in the finals. So maybe he can do a little better, but the second book's really good. He kind of expanded the world building a little bit, put in some put in multiple POVs, which is pretty cool to see. So yeah, I've just been like I said, I've been trying to get as much as I can. I'm like I said, I'm about 70% through the Hand of the Sun King now, so I'll probably review that next week. It's good. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Goblin Emperor. I don't know if
Oh,
you've
nice.
ever read that one. Which Witness for the Dead is
I was
probably one
gonna
of my next
say, I see Witness
listens.
for the Dead behind you.
Yeah, that's gonna be one of my next ones. But yeah, it's like one of those that's not very like punchy, stabby. It's very political and kind of like a coming of age a little bit. It's really good. That one comes out I think in August from Gallant. But yeah, man, I'm reading all over the place, listening to books all over the place. Like I'm re-listening to stuff, and I'm probably like my wife will go back to teaching in a couple of weeks. So like I'm gonna get really back into listening to books while I'm working. So
Yeah.
I'm planning on just like going through a book a day if I can, but we'll see if that happens. I say that and it won't. So,
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, half those books are like 2-day reads if you listen the
right.
whole way through anyway. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Have you checked out LeVar Burton reads at all?
No, I haven't.
So that's he reads short stories from science fiction and fantasy like Max Gladstone and Amal Almator and Elizabeth Bear and a bunch of others. And they're like, they're like half an hour to like 50-minute reads. And he just read one. It was really good by P. Jelly Clark. And
What?
yeah, and
All right,
it just came
Google
out this week. It's called the oh God. Well, hold on. I can look at my phone. But it's a short story, so it's not any of his novellas that have come out recently.
Yeah.
Let's see. It's called The Angel of Khan el-Khalili, and it's about this. It takes place in like the early 1900s in Cairo, Egypt, and it's this girl who comes to an automaton angel to ask for a miracle, and like it's really good. I love. I got to sit on a panel with P. Jelly Clark last year at TBRcon, and a really cool dude. But his writing is like super evocative. So
Yeah.
and then like listening to like LeVar Burton read it, who like, I grew up on with like reading Rainbow and like Star Trek. It's just like awesome. So yeah, man, if you're looking for a shorter thing, like, you only have like half an hour or something, like he has, I don't know, I think he's on like season 3 or something like that. He has a bunch of stuff in there.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Yeah, I really like PJ Clark. I had a chat with him last year, and Adrian actually just has like I think part 2 comes out tomorrow. That he had a chat with him about Master of Jin, and
Mm-hmm.
I haven't finished that one yet, but I've loved everything that he's come out with. Like Ring Shout was like my favorite novella that came out last year. It was so good. And he's a great person to talk to. I love interacting with him when I get the opportunity. But yeah, I'll definitely check it out because I saw some more names on like the list on the website for LeVar Reed. So I'll check it out. So thanks for that. So
Yeah, no problem, man.
But yes, everybody, make sure which the City of the Seal has been out. You just need to go get a copy. And then Justice and Revenge just came out, so make sure to grab it as well. And peek at that little fan fight addict blurb down at the bottom, thanks to Jason. It's pretty cool. But yeah, and Ryan, it's always so much fun catching up, and I don't know if we will again before TBRcon in January, but if we do, it'd be awesome. And if not, then we'll be talking on the panel like we always do. And best of luck with everything going for book 3 and with the new cell on the hopeful next series. And we'll do this again.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Always a blast. Maybe next time folks will be able to see me, but that's okay. I'm still coming to you from my haunted house here. And
You just won't be a floating head.
I won't be a floating head. But no, man, it's been great to catch up with you. Hope things stay well, and excited for TBRcon.
Yeah, man. Same to you. And hopefully your power comes back on before tomorrow.
I hope so. I really hope so.
Talk to you later, buddy.
All right. See you.
All right, bye.